So we made it to the end of my pregnancy experience. This is my pregnancy experience labor. And this is very interesting. I chose to go with a midwife. I went to a birthing center and I did no drugs, no epidural, no Pitocin, no anything, no drugs at all. Okay? And I'm a first time mom. This is my first time having a baby. And I would like to tell about my experience. First off, okay. In the very beginning, um, I knew that labor can last a long time. I was expecting my labor to last about 15 hours because they say that most first time mothers can go between 8 and 15 hours. Um, and I had a friend who had a baby last year and she was in labor for 11 hours. She had a natural birth, no anything, same place I went to, and she was in labor for 11 hours. So I stayed home the first 9 hours of my labor because I felt like, I'll probably have the baby in around 15 hours. I went into labor about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would say I didn't go to the birthing center until about 2 ish. I might be off on my math a little bit, but it was about 9 hours. So from 3 to and add 9 hours. And I was in labor in total 31 hours. Okay? That is not normal. um, and I can tell you my experience. Okay, I stayed at home. I called the midwife, let her know I was in labor. She told me to go back to sleep because it was early labor. And the truth is, early labor doesn't even hurt as bad as menstrual cramps. It's like you have a little, like you feel something a little odd with your body, and then it goes away, and then that happens throughout, but in those early labor it really isn't anything. You think it's something until you have real live contractions. So I say the first 9 hours or so was early labor. um I next day, or when I finally went in, because excuse me, the day before I went in and found out that and it was just my normal routine visit, because towards the end of pregnancy you start having visits every week. So it was my normal visit. I found out that I was dilated 1 centimeter, and the week prior I realized I had not been dilated at all, and it was getting close for me to be due. So the next week I started walking like crazy. I started walking. I did some extracurricular activities. Yeah, and that actually sent me into labor. Just so you know. Now there's nothing that you can do if the baby's not ready to come. Walking is not going to help. Extracurriculars, they're not going to help. Nothing's going to help. The baby's not ready. But for me, I was walking and walking and walking, and the baby was ready. So right after, that night after everything, I went into labor that night, and I can tell you the science behind it. You know, sperm and semen has something in it that actually cause you to um, it softens the cervix. I can't remember the name of it, but it has a chemical in it that softens the cervix, and when you have an orgasm, it actually causes contractions because that whole part of your body is contracting. So if you want to have a baby and you're really close to the end and nothing's working, you might want to try some extracurriculars. Anywho, past that, so it's hour 9, and I'm on my way to the birthing center, and for some odd reason I just knew that I had only dilated 1 centimeter. Got there, she checks me, I had only dilated 1 centimeter from the night before, and which was horrible. So I was only 1 centimeter the day before. The next day I was 2 centimeters, but the difference is I was in labor. It wasn't, because you can stay 2 centimeters and not be in labor. I've seen people that was dilated 3 centimeters and was not in labor. I was in labor and I was only dilated 2 centimeters, and I was handling labor pretty well. I was handling it pretty well up until about hour 20. Okay, hour 20, I was looking at my midwife and I was wondering, why am I still in labor? And I was thinking to myself, you know what? The next time I have a baby, I will have a scheduled C-section, It's going to be on the 3rd at 3 o'clock on a Friday. But it was, it was starting to get kind of intense. I actually had to sleep through contractions. So, because at night, I hadn't been asleep. So the next night, when we were at the birthing center, I had to try to sleep through my contractions, which actually I was able to do. And the contractions were coming probably about every 5 minutes, and I would sleep and then wake up and have a contraction and sleep. So, my experience with the birthing center is I love it. The whole time I was able to eat my popsicles, which I loved. I was walking around. I like the experience with the birthing center that's so different is that you're able to eat. Like I have pictures of me eating lasagna because I was hungry, and my mother-in-law she bought us a lasagna, and I cooked it right before time for go to the birth center, and I sat there and ate lasagna pretty much the whole time. But when you have, when you're in the hospital and you have all of those drugs and things in you, you're not allowed to eat. So they don't let a 9-month pregnant woman eat. That's not okay. you know. So I remember that. And I also remember that for my sister who had a baby last year, exactly a year before my baby. And she was in the hospital and she was so hungry, but because of the drugs they put her on, the Pitocin, epidural, she couldn't eat. She couldn't eat afterwards. She had to wait a long time, and that was not good. And I say the 31 hours, and people freak out, but the truth is, labor is progressive, and a lot of it is like strong labor, is strong menstrual cramps, and then towards the end is when you're starting to get into the real intense contractions where you're having real progression, which is at the end, and that doesn't last that long. And 31 hours is not normal. Most women won't stay in labor that long. My baby was stubborn, but when he was coming down the canal, his head was cocked a little bit to the side. So instead of coming down straight like this and opening up the cervix with each contraction, he was not. So I was contracting and not making any progress. So my midwife she actually, put her hands up there to feel where the baby was. She realized that the baby head was cocked to the side. She straightened it up as much as she could without disturbing the baby. And then once she did that, I started progressing a lot faster. But again, it was my choice. I was not checked a lot during the pregnancy. A lot of women. So I would say if you're, I definitely encourage a natural birth. I had 31 hours of labor, so if I can do it, anybody can do it. It's not as bad as people make it out to be. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. Why would you do that? But my baby came out alert. He came out wanting to eat. He came out looking around. His eyes was open from day one. And then a couple days later, he was already holding up his head. Like I had pictures in like his first week where he's like looking around, and he's very active. And even now he turned 6 weeks today. But yesterday I got him on videotape, and he was scooting along, and he scooted his whole little body around, and he's only 6 weeks old. And I think that has to do with him not being doped up when he's first born. And that's not to say I have anything against people going to the hospital. If you have to, if it's necessary, and if you can't handle it, by all means go to the hospital. But if your birth is normal throughout, because like the birthing center only takes people that's 100% normal, healthy births. There's no problems. Even high blood pressure, they won't take you. So you can't have anything wrong with you. So if you have if you're completely healthy, the baby's healthy, then there's no reason for you not to do a natural birth. And I love the experience. I love when the baby came out, and it gave me my little baby, and he was hollering to the top of his lungs. Some people get babies that are kind of quiet and they don't make a whole lot of noise. But my baby let me know that he was not quiet. He was screaming. So he came out and they put him on me, and it's like the best feeling ever. And all of the labor, all of the because I remember thinking pregnancy was the worst thing ever in life. Okay, that pregnancy, I wouldn't even wish that on my worst enemy. But once you have that baby and he's on your chest and he's wanting to eat, or he or she, you're gonna forget everything that happened. And natural birth is just better for you, better for the baby. Also, real quick about breastfeeding. Breastfeeding also helps you lose weight, and it helps you with postpartum depression and all sorts of stuff. So if you can, breastfeed. I love you guys. Bye, YouTube.